Hi, I'm Darlene Duncan, Vice President at KWN. I want to welcome you all here today. It's so nice to see all these smiling faces and brightness from everybody, just so positive. And so glad you're here. Hope you stay, hope you become a member, and happy Valentine's Day. And as I started, our speaker today is Dr. Laura E. Cox. Oh man. All right. Laura E. Cox has been on quite the journey, recently earning her doctorate of Acupuncture and Traditional Chinese Medicine at the AOMA Graduate School of Integrative Medicine in Austin, Texas. She'll be telling us about her journey to become a doctor, which included research on examining explicit bias within the acupuncture profession in the U.S. Laura was president of KWN from 2012 to 2014, and she had to step back from membership engagement due to her schooling. We're so glad to have her back as a member and as the February speaker. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much. This is my first meeting back since October of 2020, so it's really fabulous to be here and to be with everyone again. I was asked to talk about my journey to doctor, and man, I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I said, I think I want to learn some more stuff. I want some learning opportunities. I know I'll go back to school. And I didn't specify the kind of learning opportunities I wanted because I started my doctoral program in the summer of 2019. And when I first began, I was commuting back and forth to Austin. So every 6 to 9 weeks, I had a doctoral residency week where I would fly to Austin and have 7 to 10 intensive days of class from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It was intense. But on top of the book learning that I got, there was a lot of life learning experiences as well. My first residency week, actually my very first night in Austin, I got food poisoning. And I'm 1,000 miles from home. I don't know anyone. And one of my classmates sent me a text message that night asking me how I was doing, and I said, I am not good. And she dropped everything and came over and brought me some activated charcoal and some other herbs so that I could stop expelling everything. I won't get any more detail than that.
Enough said.
So I learned in that moment that friends show up wherever you are, and that support shows up whenever you're willing to allow it. My next doctoral residency week, I was in my Airbnb when the largest fire that Travis County had had in a decade erupted right behind my Airbnb. Like from where I'm standing to the front door was about how far away that fire was. And I woke up at 3 a.m. to somebody pounding on my door. And again, I'm 1,000 miles from home. There's a man screaming at my door at 3 a.m. And there's this massive fire. And of course, what do you do when, I didn't have a car and I didn't know, I'd met my classmates at that point, but I called my mom and I said, Mom, there is this huge fire and they're telling me to be ready to evacuate at a moment's notice. And she said, okay, you're going to take a deep breath. You're going to make sure that you have your essentials ready to go, and you're going to just put everything by the front door. And what I learned in that moment is that no matter what time of day, no matter what time of night, no matter how far away you are, your mother can always be a voice of reason. She doesn't know that, so, There are so many other experiences like that I had along the way, but there's that one little thing called the global pandemic that we experienced that happened shortly after I started my doctoral program. And that shifted the way that, you may have heard of this, it shifted the way the world worked. And for me, what it looked like was I was no longer going to Austin. My last in-person residency week was February of 2020, and I was sitting on the plane next to a man who was hacking his lungs out. And we didn't know at that time, thankfully I didn't get sick, but after that, we had to figure out, like, fly by the seat of our pants, what are we going to do to keep this doctoral program rolling? And we were able to, I wouldn't say seamlessly, but relatively quickly transition from in-person learning to online learning. What that looked like is that I live by myself, I'm a solo practitioner, and all of a sudden the community that I had at school and the community that I had around me was around me, but I wasn't able to be a part of it. And man, like being single during those first few months of the pandemic was probably one of the hardest things that I've had to go through. At least I had my cat and my dog, but even my dog got sick of me being home, and she would take her little sassy butt and go sleep on the guest bed because she didn't want me around anymore. But what I saw at that time, even though we couldn't gather together, people were calling me. People were asking, hey, can we do Zoom meetings? Can we connect online? We had the opportunity to create a Zoom KWN luncheon for a while, and it gave me the opportunity to see that even though I can't physically be with my community is never away from me. And Kenosha especially. You know, I thought about moving to Colorado years ago because in this area, I'm a weirdo. You know, there's not a lot of functional medicine, acupuncture, like that nutrition stuff. Like, it's kind of like cutting edge, leading edge here in the Midwest. In Colorado, there's all those, that's where all the weirdos go, like me. And I would have had a really strong community of like-minded weirdos. But I stayed in Kenosha because Kenosha has really carried me through the darkest days of my life. And the people here deserve the opportunity to have access to this kind of medicine. Fast forward to George Floyd's murder. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of politics, but I had heard about racist death in the past. I had heard about these kinds of experiences in the past, but I never had the opportunity to see it happening on video. And that changed me. My original dissertation topic was going to be looking at cardiometabolic syndrome and how traditional Chinese medicine can support changing the way the body functions with that kind of a disease. And I couldn't stop thinking about George Floyd. And then just a short period of time after that, Jacob Blake was shot, and everything that erupted in Kenosha was literally right outside my door. I could smell the tear gas like seeping in through my windows, and I could hear the protesters being shot with rubber bullets, and the air was thick with smoke every single night for quite some time, even after the fires were extinguished.
I slept right through it.
Did you? I couldn't stop thinking about it, and it was preventing me from being able to finish my homework. And so I decided that I needed to scrap the work that I had done on my dissertation and start over. So I switched my focus to looking at implicit bias within the acupuncture profession. Implicit bias is something that we all have. It's unconsciously held beliefs that impact the way that we interact with other people. Sometimes those implicit biases become explicit, so we are playing those out here in the world, or we're consciously aware of that. But oftentimes, we're not even aware of the biases that we're holding or how they color the way that we interact with people. Acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine is a really phenomenal tool to be able to help people get better quickly and effectively and naturally, and it's relatively inexpensive to provide the supplies and the things like that. But it's a profession that's dominated in the US by white women. And if white women are coming into the treatment room with their biases, there's no way that we're going to be able to make a difference for marginalized people who don't have access to health care that could make a real difference for the diseases that they're living with, dealing with. And I did my research on it, so I could talk about that for a really long time. But the most important thing is that there are things that we can all do to begin to address our implicit bias. And if that's something that you would like to learn more about, you are welcome to come talk to me. I got to partner with Harvard and Project Implicit in the first of its kind research, where I did a survey of licensed acupuncturists in the United States with a master's degree education. And my research won an award. Nobody has done, I have award-winning research. Nobody has looked at the acupuncture profession in this way before. And now I have the opportunity to take that information and share it with the educational institutions and say, look, you're dropping the ball when it comes to inclusivity, when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to teaching your students and working with your community on implicit bias and how it impacts access to healthcare. It's really impossible to take the last 3.5 years and condense it down into 10 minutes, but the biggest thing is that, there's so many big things, but community is everywhere when you're able to allow community to be there for you. Even in the darkest times, and I hate that word, we heard it so many times, but the unprecedented times that we've been living through, all you have to do is just reach out to your community and allow them to reach out to you. So thank you so much.